Okay, well, hey neighbors, welcome to the Shed Shop and this edition of How To. Today is Saturday, February 3, I believe, 2024. Yes, Saturday, February 3. This is a leap year, so 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31 except for February, which has 28, but in a leap year, it has 29. I have on my bench here a Stihl MS290 that we are converting to an MS390 for neighbor Hayes. If you guys recollect, if you've seen the disassembly of neighbor Hayes' saw, you will see the piston was scored real bad. And then it's very hard to show on the camera, but our cylinder is not only got transfer on it, but it's got a score mark on it, and so that means we can't remove transfer like we did with his 291. So we have to go ahead and replace that. I am using a Chino motor, and if you're regular to this channel, you guys know I don't like using Chino motors. I only like Highway and Meteor. However, I did a saw for a neighbor Pete down the road last year. It is actually on the Nightmare 441 and Others playlist. That's our Nightmare MS290 to 390, and I used this same brand Chino motor, and even though it was a bitch nightmare to get those rings to seat on that cheap motor, I was willing to go ahead and use a Chino motor on neighbor Hayes' saw, because he has given me good business since I've known him, and I believe that doing that favor for him will bring me more business to come in the future, not only from him, but from his local friends and neighbors. Okay, so a couple of things we're going to go through is, I told y'all I have a little bit of a story for when we do neighbor Hayes MS290 here. I met him sitting in town at Advanced Auto trying to sell some saws. And I have told you this, but just to refresh your recollection, he stopped by and asked me, do I work on saws? And I says, well, neighbor, I do, but I'm not taking on any new work right now. And he had his saws with him, and I really thought his 291 was just going to be a $60 tune-up and service. And it turned out to have a scored motor. We started that saw up there and everything, and because money is so tight and I desperately need money, boy, I gotta close the door, neighbors. It's cold out. It's early in the morning, very early in the morning, and yeah, I'm gonna turn the heater on too, even though it's loud. We'll turn that off after our intro here when we get to work. Where were we? Let's see, neighbors. Okay, yeah, so he started that saw up, and it ran, and it just wouldn't idle, he said, and the saw just was not performing like it's supposed to. And so I went ahead and rebuilt that 291 for him and did something I never do either as well. I used to, when I sold saws in the past, I would remove transfer if it was minor, and then I would make that known to the buyer that that's what I've done, and I would also sometimes do it for customers, but I don't really remove transfer on saws I sell anymore, and I very rarely do it for customers anymore because it takes a lot of time, and the cost I typically would have to charge to remove transfer from a cylinder is, in my opinion, not worth it to my customer, because several hours of work, I can't just charge them $10 or $15. You know, I'll have to charge like 50 to 100 bucks to sand a cylinder, because again, it can take forever. It can take you 8 hours sometimes. Nonetheless, we had some issues with Hayes 291 after we rebuilt it. We went to cut with it and it wouldn't cut. It was dying in the cut, and turns out our saw was only turned up to 10.5. With the carburetor restrictors, that's as much as we could lean it out. So we removed those restrictors. I gave you guys a video on how to do that, and I will leave you an info card here on that. And your end screen will be his disassembly of this 290, and I will go ahead and put a couple of the 291 videos so you can watch those if you haven't already. his 291, he's very happy with it now. He's run several tanks of gas through it and said the saw is performing wonderfully. A couple weeks ago, I put out a video talking about sharing with you guys my mental health diagnoses of bipolar, intermittent explosive disorder, situational anxiety, situational depression, and I have a touch of OCD, and so that's part of why my life is chaos, because the way everything is messy like this and disorganized is not how I like to live. But because of my physical health, I'm not able to keep up with everything in life like I want to. I have just spent the last 3 or 4 days in bed for the most part, because pulling cord just wipes me out, and lifting things like pallets with Dion just completely wipes me out. And unfortunately, that means, you know, I have to move away from doing certain things, and that's hard to accept. I've had health problems most of my life, but they are progressively getting worse, and pulling chainsaw cord has really taken a toll on my neck. All of that being said, I was at a different spot in town where I sit and sell saws sometimes, and neighbor Hayes pulled up, and his 290 was already here, and he bought one of my MS390s and decided he wants to go ahead and convert this to an MS390. And he just was telling me how much he appreciated the footage on his 291. He had asked me from the very beginning if I was able to get footage for him on the YouTube channel of his saw. That would be awesome, but if not, that's okay too. And I have some neighbors ask that, and then I also have some neighbors that specifically purchase a redemption package, and that means we go 100% with the saw, and we put basically everything on film, and they pay a little bit extra for that. And so that is part of why his saw, sorry Hayes, hasn't gotten done yet, because I know this saw very well and can put it together pretty quickly usually. But even though he didn't pay for a redemption package, the fact that he likes the footage and everything, I like to tailor that to some of my customers. Jonathan Luna is another customer that he really likes to have his saws on the channel, but he doesn't specifically request it. And so I try very hard, anything I do to his saws, to get at least a portion of it on video. So that being said, that's why I am doing this video for you guys. I have showed you assemblies of 1127 series saws before, and a reminder, that's your 029, your 029 Super, your MS310, your 039, and your MS390. They are all very similar, only slight variances in the curvature or square. The O saws have a straight here, and the MS's have a curve for your air filter cover and your top handle. And then you might have a variance in your tank vents sometimes. Almost all of them have a Walbro K10 HD carburetor. And then the only other difference is your bore size. Goodness, I need to trim my nose hairs. Itchy. Anyways, so here's what we're going to go through. We're going to run through kind of like if this was a redemption package. We're going to run through and show you everything that we need to do to this saw. Things we needed to replace and whatnots. So again, we've got our Chino motor. He has also requested to have a DECOM valve. Now he's got a 290 top handle. Okay. And so obviously the 290s did not come with a DECOM valve, so we will be putting a hole in his top cover. Oh, Chet Hayes, I didn't even notice how cracked your handle was. I'll tell you what, buddy, I might have one that's in better condition. Shall we look, neighbors? It might be broken, but yeah, I can't get a hold of Hayes right now. See, that one's in good condition. I can't get a hold of him. I really might have to pause you guys and try and call him. I don't know what time of day he gets up, you know, but he runs a crew, so I figured he would be an early riser. Because like this one has a less of a crack in the back. And I think I'd probably be willing to give him this one because I wouldn't sell that, or I wouldn't typically use that. I wouldn't typically use that on a rebuild saw, on one of my saws. So, yeah, because his is pretty rough. What did I just do, damn it? Yeah, I'm a mess, you guys. I only got about 2 hours of sleep last night, and then I tossed and turned for another 5 hours. Yeah, his is really, really cracked. It's extremely weak, and I think it's on its way out. So, I could probably give him this one for like 10 bucks, I guess. Yeah, let's pause, you guys, and let's try and call him. Okay, I realized I stopped in the middle of a thought. Hayes came up to the other spot that I was selling saws at, and he just stopped and told me how much he really appreciated the footage, but also how much he respected the fact that I was open with you guys about my mental health. He has a family member, for sake of his privacy, I'm not going to say who, that he's dealt with their bipolar his entire life, and so he can relate in some ways to how difficult that can be to have a functional life when you have bipolar 1 or 2. So, still can't get a hold of Hayes, but I did show you his handle. It's cracked real bad, and basically what we're going to do is if we don't hear from him by the time we get to the point of putting that top handle or top cover rear handle on, I'm going to put mine on, and then if he doesn't want to pay for it, well, I guess I'm going to eat the cost, but I'm guessing he'll probably go ahead and give me the $10 for it. I gave him a really good price on that MS390, so that's that. We donated one AV annuller for him up here. I have a very lightly used one that I donated to him because that one was just dry rotted and on its way out. His other two are very loose, and so waiting on an answer from him there if he wants aftermarket OEM or to keep the loose ones. It's entirely up to him. This one we 100% have to replace. As we saw in our disassembly, it is completely ripped, and so I have an aftermarket here for that. We can reuse our cap because it's not broken, and if I hear from him before we get to that step as well and he wants to do OEM for $10, we'll just go ahead and do the OEM one instead. So like I said, we're going to be cutting a hole in our top cover for our DECOM valve. We have our new piston, our rings. I am going to possibly, I'll decide here in a couple minutes, I still haven't decided, use his OEM clips because I don't love these aftermarket ones. I have seen them come out on people. Okay, we've got his needle cage bearing there. And then the other part we have to replace for sure is, you guys also will see in the disassembly video, we had a really hard time getting our sprocket off, and that's because our bearing is bad. You can see there's a needle missing, so we have a brand new OEM needle cage bearing for him. When he brought his saw for diagnostics, his muffler bolts were really rusted, and he said, I don't care if they break. I was worried about them breaking, so we did have one break, so we're selling him a new muffler bolt and nut. And then on his clutch is extremely loose, okay, and that is bad for your saw, and so I'm not even willing to put that back on the saw, so customer doesn't get a choice there. But I did give him 33% off of our OEM springs because they have just a bit of surface rust. It's nothing more than surface rust. When we dropped my workbench a while back with neighbor Kyle and Uncle Mark, these got left outside, and so the dew got to them. So they have a little bit of surface rust, but that's not going to affect anything. He has the small body fuel pickup filter, but this is extremely restricted, as you can see. And so I am going to go ahead and put in a large pickup body fuel filter, aftermarket, and we're giving him a fair price on that as well. His impulse line is good, and we're first thing we're going to do is we're going to vacuum pressure test his fuel line to make sure that it passes and it's good. His caps, his O-ring caps, are a little bit stiff, but basically we're only going to replace those if we absolutely have to. And we won't know until we go to run the saw. If our gas cap O-ring is bad, it can cause our saw not to work at all. Also, when I do a China motor, I automatically require the carburetor to be rebuilt. so that if I have issues, I know it's unlikely to be my carburetor. Now, if I get in there and his diaphragms look really, really good, we will not do that. And that will save him $10. So I sell the CTS carburetor kits for $10, plus tax on other sites. And so my customers, I give them just $10, tax included here. Let's see, what else do we have? His worm gear arm looks okay. We're going to make sure, though, once we get our sprocket on, to see how that looks. And then his sprocket, oh, you know what we need? We need our crankshaft. His bearings are good, okay? So we're keeping those, okay? And then his sprocket, he's got an 8-tooth, and it has some wear to it, but it's got a little bit of life left in it. And so for now, we're going to put this back on, and if he wants to purchase a new one, that's a very easy part to replace. But he typically replaces his sprockets himself, so he's probably going to want to get maximum life out of that, so he'll probably use that a little bit longer. We are using our aftermarket wrist pin with our piston instead of our OEM. And then the other thing I want to show you guys is spark plug color can tell you lots of things. Here's what happened to this saw. He has guys that run his saws and cut wood for him on his work crew. And basically what they did is they mixed the fuel 100 to 1, okay? He told them very specifically that I think the gas jug had 2 gallons in it and they needed to put 2 things of mix or put the gallon in something else. Nonetheless, he gave them very clear instructions of what they needed to do for the fuel. If you look at your spark plug, it's very gray, okay? And when you see a spark plug that's gray like that, it means the saw is running way too lean. Okay, if this was like really black, we're running way too rich. You want somewhere in the middle. Let's see if I have a good used one up here, because I'll usually throw my used spark plugs into a bin, and then when it gets full, I either trash them, or sometimes I'll just give them to other tinkerers that I know. So this is a spark plug that's been run kind of rich, but not super rich. A little bit rich, which is good. This light tan color, it might be hard to see on the camera, but it actually kind of looks like this color. Light tan, a little bit lighter than this is what we want. If you see that, that means your saw is being run in the perfect air-fuel mixture ratio. And so that's pretty much it, you guys. I know it's a long intro, but as I've been working hard to have text at the beginning to tell you what you can skip to avoid the intro. So this will be the timestamp I tell you to fast forward to if you don't want to hear my jabbering. Again, I'm doing this footage and specifically waited until I had the time. This takes, when I do a video for you guys, it takes a lot more time. The setup, the assembly, making sure I have everything, trying to hope that I can keep the video under 5 hours or whatever. For Hayes, because he told me how much he liked the footage of his 291. He had asked me from the very beginning with the 291 if I could get it on the YouTube channel. He had never even seen my YouTube channel, that would be cool. And so with this one, when he stopped at my other place after he's had his 291 back and knew that we had to fully rebuild his 290, and told me what he told me, that he really appreciated that I was willing to be open about my mental health and everything, I feel he deserves this film. And waiting a couple of extra days, I feel to him that's most likely worth it. So that's why we're doing this footage for Neighbor Hayes. We try to go out of our way for our neighbors as much as we can to do them right. But sometimes people just touch you in a certain way that it makes you all the more motivated and encouraged to take the extra steps and go the extra mile for them. So with that being said, neighbors, I'm going to finally shut the hell up, because I lied to you about 2 minutes ago, and then I kept jabbering. I'm going to turn you down to the bench, and we're going to get to work on Neighbor Hayes' MS290 converting to an MS390. Damn it, neighbors! Okay, here we are. Again, this camera does not allow me. Damn, I thought I cleared up enough space for everything. This camera does not allow me, okay, right at the edge of my mat. Does not allow me to switch from front to back camera while I'm recording. So when I do my intros, I either have to do the intro and then merge it with a second video, or I just have to use the rear facing camera and hope. I noticed on one of my Shed Shop updates, you guys can only see half of my head. So trying my best here. But first things first, like I said, we're going to go ahead and vacuum pressure test his fuel line here. Okay, don't have a lot of space to do such. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to show you guys. Let me find our bolt. Every aftermarket motor that I know of, okay, and that includes your screw outs, your holes for your intake boots when they screw on. They're stock coarse thread on the Stihls for many of them, and every aftermarket I have gotten, including Meteor and Highway, look at that, that's tight, it won't spin no more. You want to know why? That's a coarse thread and it's tapped for a fine thread M4. And so if you look, this one will spin right in. And so I've had a lot of these break on me when I've been putting coils in on the aftermarket top ends, and I finally realized it's because it's a fine thread, not a coarse thread. Okay, so you can see this bolt is a tiny bit shorter, but that is also the other thing. These are not tapped as deep, and so I have also had the end poke through the plating down here, okay, and we don't want that. It puts a hole. I think I have 391 was the one that it poked through the plating. Oh no, it was an intake screw that poked through the plating, okay, because the OEM bolts don't fit in the aftermarket top ends. So that was the other thing. So I'm going to put that right there so I know where it is. And then I have showed you guys how to vacuum pressure test fuel lines in the past, but you're going to get to see again how we do it, okay? So basically I have my hemostats holding the end as close to the filter pickup body end as possible. And then we will go in through the top here, and what we're going to do is we're going to pump 15 pounds of pressure, okay? Make sure we don't leak. But the other thing we're looking for, sometimes I can't get up all the way, I don't know why. It takes forever. This Mighty Vac, it seems like the pressure, yeah, we're not getting there for some reason. I haven't been able to get pressure to go up. I don't know why. So let's do vacuum first. Okay, we go to 15. And basically we're going to make sure in the first 30 seconds of vacuum being applied that our fuel line does not collapse in on itself. It needs to hold its shape for at least 30 seconds. And this one's doing well. So we'll wait 30 seconds on that. Okay, so we have held at 15. And our line has not collapsed. Why we cannot get our pressure all the way up, I do not know. It seems to not let me go above 10. And 15 is actually what Husqvarna says to test to. So that's just what I use for Stihl's fuel lines as well. Yeah, it just won't go any higher. Not quite sure why. You can only get to 9 PSI. I don't know if that's because my end's not crimped off well, or, but we want to make sure we don't have a damn leak. So even though I can't get to 15, yeah, because we get to 10 and then we drop right back down. Oh, there we go. Yeah, no, it's just dropping back down to 10. I don't know why we can't get any higher, but so we'll go there. And we're making sure it does not balloon up in the first 30 seconds. Don't know, or lose pressure. Don't know why we can't get to 15, but we'll watch that. We're actually going to give it a full 60 seconds. Okay, that has held at our 10 pounds, and so our fuel line should be good. The reason I did that is to save my neighbor money. I could just go ahead and replace the fuel line, but that's going to cost my neighbor $7.50. And so if I can save him $7.50 for an extra 2 minutes of work, that's worth it to me. Now, we have our, what do we do with our crankshaft seals? I pulled a set out. I know I did. They must be over here. They are. We are using Pharmatech crankshaft seals, okay? And we are going to fill this cavity with grease like they say to do in the service manual. I don't fill these big ones all the way. One of you viewers once told me that the only reason you do this is to help hold the spring in, but that doesn't honestly make sense to me. Because, oh goodness, my grease gun is tight in my hands. I don't fill these because gas does get into these, and then it ends up eating this grease away anyways. And so that neighbor might be correct, but I'm not 100% certain. I don't know why my grease gun is not working. It might need filled. Let's check. Oh no, it's got grease in there. I don't know how deep it is. I'm trying to find something to gauge how much grease we have left. Yeah, it should still be working, but nonetheless, we'll use our finger. Okay. Yeah, I don't know the accuracy of this is just to hold the springs in, because if that's all it was for, I wouldn't do this. Honestly, just wouldn't do this at all. I should be using my lithium, my white lithium, because it'd be easier to put in, but yeah, we're going to do that. A little bit of mixture here. Sorry, Hayes. Okay. This is messier, but I don't know why my grease gun is so hard. It might just be my arthritic hands. My body continuously is getting weaker. And then we want to spread some grease around the lip here, okay, where it sets on our crankshaft, because that allows it a good start to life. If you start it out all dry, you can ruin the dust lip portion of your crankshaft seal. So we just grease that up, okay. And then we will go ahead and get our piston rings on our piston. Oh yeah, you know what? These are highway rings. It's not marked as a highway motor. Usually they have their logo on it, but the HY is what's on the highway rings, so that's kind of cool. That gives me a little bit of confidence. Like I said, the only reason I was willing to do this China motor is because I had a neighbor down the street that was supposed to do me a couple of good favors for allowing him to let me use a China top end instead of paying for a Meteor highway. And he still owes me those favors. One of them was he was supposed to bring me a whole bunch of horse manure, which he still has not done. And this has been like a year now. And so I'm going to have to go ask neighbor Pete why I don't have my horse manure yet, and why he hasn't helped me with those other two chores he said he was going to help me with. Okay, there's that. And then we'll go ahead. I really do prefer on these ones, I just don't trust these clips, so I'm going to go ahead and reuse his OEMs. I feel much safer that way, provided they go in easy. If not, we'll use the aftermarkets. Okay, I just don't want to risk a clip coming out. So I do have my tool here that I use. There we go. Didn't want to go. Okay, and it doesn't matter which side we put on first on this one, really. And I'm just looking for my opening. We want our opening facing down. Okay. And actually, my clips look too big for this piston, honestly. That's weird. I don't know if it's going to go in. I do struggle with this tool sometimes with the aftermarket pistons. Yeah, that didn't even come close. It just doesn't even seem like it's going to, honestly. It looks too big. It's the same size wrist pin, but where our clip sits doesn't necessarily mean that's the right size, I suppose. Because I've got it perfectly lined up as best I can, and I can still see surface showing. Part of the issue is the bottom here won't go down low enough to line it up. So, Hayes, you might be stuck with the aftermarket clips, buddy. But at least the provider of our top end says it has a 1-year warranty on it. So if yeah, that's not going to go. Sorry, Hayes. Not going to go, buddy. We're going to have to use our aftermarkets. Okay, I don't like it, but I'll try one time with needle nose, but I don't like putting these in with needle nose because my hands, they're very difficult for me. A lot of guys can do this really easily, me not so much. Okay, so we will try for you. I'll try, but try as I might doesn't mean I'll succeed. I really struggle doing this with needle nose. Yeah, see, I can't do it. It's too difficult for me. There is another way I can go. Sometimes I can get them in if I take them from this end. Yeah, just not wanting to go. Ah. Okay. Let's see if we can use our drift here, because it went in too deep. There we are. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it. I don't know if you guys saw how I did that, but it can be a lot easier if you take your... I always forget to put me a little piece of white paper towel, because I lose these damn clips on the mat here. And it appears I have lost one of my OEM clips here, damn it. This sucks. I've completely lost it. Oh, there it is. Okay. You take your needle nose and grab it from this side, and then that way as you push this in, it compresses it together. The other way is to do it this way, get it started, but both ways you want to try and have your pliers end in that divot there. So I'm going to just turn that piston ring to where I like it to be. Thought I just pulled me a screwdriver out, but I didn't, and I might have to sit down here soon because I'm hurting real bad. And then I know the heater's noisy, so let me turn that off, and I gotta blow my nose as well. Okay, and again, you guys, I'm gonna continue to apologize for the videos being out of order. They're not chronologically in order, so it can be a little bit difficult to keep up with things like what's going on with my uncle and various things. My uncle is still in the hospital. Again, today is February 3, and he had surgery the other day. They went in and cleaned out the abscess manually. He still got drains in, but they are still having issues getting rid of his infection, his staph infection completely. Okay, so oiling our needle bearing there, just to give that a good start. Well, hell, make sure we do this right. Our clutch side is that way. Okay, we want to have our arrow facing the right way. Okay, and then we'll slide our wrist pin in. I did check beforehand to make sure our wrist pin was not tight in our piston. Sometimes you have to either use some lapping compound or just sand your wrist pin a little bit to get it to go in smoothly. Now again, we'll do this the same thing with this clip. This side is going to be a little easier because our wrist pin stops it from going too deep. Okay, that looks good. Arrows facing the correct way. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our intake boot. His intake boot was in good condition. The one thing I did notice, however, there was a bunch of oil built up right along here, and so that should be dry where that clamps. In the 1123 series saws, your 021s, 025s, MS210, MS230, MS250s, they just have a plastic ring here, or I'm sorry, a plastic shroud that clamps your boot to the motor. And then on the 1130, no, wait, is it 1135? The 017, MS170, 018, MS180, they also just have a little plastic ring, and so I've showed you guys, I put my Permatex or Yamabond right around right here to help, because I've seen a lot of air leaks there, but this one clamps on, and so I don't usually have to do it there. And then again, with this metal clamp, you want to go good and snug, not good and tight. Okay, You want to choke your wife passionately, not like you're trying to kill her. Okay? If we can get the damn thing on. Damn aftermarket motor. Garbage. I don't like using aftermarket cylinders if they're not highway or meteor, like I said. Yeah, this guy does not want to go on, and it's pretty much loosed all the way. But we'll try opening up the last little bit we have here. And we will shoot for the bottom first instead, I suppose. Which it doesn't want to allow me to do. There we go. Okay, I am struggling with this. It does not want to go on there. Okay, there we are. Still not on all the way though. Okay, we don't want that halfway on, because then it's not going to clamp down correctly. Do this very carefully, push it on all the way. Okay, there we go. You have this arrow, and usually this crease runs all the way down. This thing has to be centered correctly, otherwise these grommets, where it goes against the carburetor, will not line up correctly, and you'll end up with an air leak there, and that's not a good place to have an air leak. No place is a good place to have an air leak, but that's one of those ones that can be hard to diagnose, because when you go to put your flange on, if you're using a flange to test for air leak, a lot of times the flange will seal up, but the carburetor will not. Okay. It actually looks like this is slipping off. Is it? No, it is not. Okay. I feel like maybe it did some. I can't quite tell. So I'm just trying to verify that. Okay, no, it's Guten tight against the cylinder. And then finish Guten snugging up this clamp here. A little bit more difficult with this tiny screwdriver, but it is what it is. Okay, that's that. And then I need to get this out of the way. Let me make sure your view is still good. Yes, it is. Get my grease gun here out of the way. Cap this up. Okay, next thing we're going to go ahead and do is put our motor together and install it onto our saw. Okay, so we need our Yellow Bond. Oh, I'm sorry, the next thing we're going to do is put our rings, our crankshaft seals. Boy, I'm tired, you guys, and I can't talk straight. Okay, being careful not to run that dust lip against your key there. You can use tin to assist you with that, but I just push up with it to make sure it doesn't touch there, and then I'm just turning the crankshaft seal a little bit, make sure it's getting a good start here. Okay. And then on the other side, you have to be really careful. Your spring can pop out right there. So again, typically you would use tin, but on most of the saws, I can do pretty well without it, without my spring popping out. I just kind of push up and then down like so, and make sure my spring doesn't pop out. Okay. Not as much resistance as I'd like to see, but alright, there's that. Okay, excellent. Alright, next, make sure our piston rings are turned where they need to be. Okay, and we will go ahead and start. I'm going to sit down, you guys. It makes me work slower, but this is already turning out to be a lot longer video than I anticipated. So, just going to let it be what it will be. Okay, we will start on our chassis because I do a little bit thicker steel layer on this, and so it won't dry up as fast. Oh boy, it looks like we didn't get all our gasket maker off. No, I never cleaned this one off, damn it. It's supposed to be Dion's job now, so let me do that. Okay, we've got all that gasket maker removed, okay, so that we can put the new on. And basically, we're just doing a thin, even layer with our nice, stringy, messy gasket maker. Okay. And again, as I tell you guys all the time, right here, where this drops into the seal cavity, is where you want to make sure you use extra. Okay, if there's anywhere you're going to go too much, that's the place to go, because I have in the past made the mistake of having air leaks there. Okay, but that's the beauty of having a vacuum pressure tester, is after I build a saw, I can do vac pressure test on it and make sure I don't have any air leaks, because if I have issues getting the saw running right, that is one thing that is able to be eliminated. If it passes vacuum pressure test, then I don't have an air leak. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and do this surface. First though, I'm going to go ahead and put some oil in my cylinder. Okay. Just lubrication to help our piston go in easily, and plus to help it get a good start, especially if our saw does not start good right away. We don't want to not have any lubrication if we're pulling cord 20 different times. Okay, we don't want to do that to our saw, especially a saw that's our neighbor's and doesn't belong to us. Okay, because if it's my own chip, that's one thing, but if I damage a customer's stuff, that's another thing. Okay. We'll go ahead and put our piston in. Again, arrow faces the exhaust side. You want to have your rings on the pins there, centered. Okay. Usually these compress themselves, but it doesn't seem that they want to on this saw. Okay, so we'll use our screwdriver to assist us a little bit, I guess. Ah, damn it. Brake parts cleaner on my hand. Just trying to remove that surface rust from those springs as best I can. There we go. Last little bit there. Go ahead and push that in. We're going to want our counterweight inside our motor when we go to install onto our chassis here, because it's a lot easier that way. Just trying to get our rings and our oil seals in the right place. Okay, there we are. Hold that in. Okay. I'm going to put my cap back on my Yamaha Bond here, or Honda Bond, whatever it's called. Hopefully. Damn, carpal tunnel, arthritic ridden hands, disease ridden body. Alright, and then this will just slide right in there. Okay, like so. A little bit of shimmying, shimmy, shim, shim. Turn that just a tiny bit if I can. There we go. Okay, I'll set that down there loosely. Give that just a few seconds while I clean up my hands here. Okay. I did want to get the rest of this surface rust off, but it's not all coming off. It's not a big deal. It's just surface rust, though. Okay, move these caps out of the way here, neighbors. Now, hold your motor and turn your saw upside down to get your cylinder bolts in. Okay. I will start these off with the drill to snug them up, and then I will be torquing them by hand, and I kind of just go by feel. I don't have a torque screwdriver, so it's kind of, like I said, just by feel, literally. I'm just kind of trying to go snug at first and watch my seal because your crankshaft seals can go sideways.
Okay, as you guys know, I don't recommend using an impact, but because of my disability, I do. All we're doing here is trying to make sure our seals don't go sideways. We're going to snug up our bolts with our drill, and then you're going to see me here hand tighten them at the end, and then I'm just checking my seals once more to make sure they seated right.
Okay, there we are. And that's that. Now, I am going to put my DECOM valve in. What I'm going to do, actually, I have found on these aftermarket ones, you guys, a lot of times you have to lap them like you would a valve. So you take you some valve grinding compound. Okay. And after you do this, you have to clean this thing really good because you don't want this stuff inside your motor It will absolutely destroy it. Okay, so we put our lapping compound in there. Okay, and then we're just going to close this and lap it several times. Spin it several times, both directions. And that helps make sure your DECOM valve is sealed and seated properly. Okay, so we just put it like that, pull it, and then you just spin it, and do that several times. Okay, and usually I will pressure test these before I even install them on the saw, but because we've got to cut his top cover and everything, I'll end up doing that later, because we're not going to tighten this down all the way. For now, we're just putting it in to basically keep our cylinder from getting stuff in it. Okay, and we're also waiting to hear from neighbor Hayes if he wants to buy that handle that's cracked far less severely than his. Okay, once we've done that, go ahead and wipe that off. Okay, and then just go a little bit more with what's left. You can hear it sanding even stronger now. Okay, I start off with a lot, and then I do this right before I spray it off with either car parts cleaner or brake parts cleaner and air. You want to make sure you get all of that lapping compound out, because that's like sandpaper inside your motor at 13,000 RPMs. Imagine what damage happens. It's no joke. Okay, so get that sprayed out. I just sprayed it with car parts cleaner. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I don't hear or feel any more in there. I'll inspect it real closely, and I'm pretty certain we've got it good and clean. So I'm just going to thread that in a couple of threads for now. Okay. And by a couple of threads, I mean I'm not going to lock it down to crush the washer. It's got a crush washer on it. These things realistically... Oh, and that's the other thing. I'll end up putting very carefully anti-seize. Thank you, Ted Notzel, for that trick. Anti-seize around the threads very, very carefully. We'll use a tool to install them. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in my fuel filter. Hook your line out. Pretty simple, self-explanatory thing. And just put that onto the fuel line. You can use a little spit or press oil or two-stroke oil if you're struggling to get that on. I am not. Let's get these clips out of here. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and go over here. We can put our dust cover over our chain brake parts. Okay, and use 2 of our M4 screws. I do want to use, especially because I don't know if he's going to spend the funds to replace his AV mounts, I do want to Loctite most everything on this saw. This hurts so much doing this. I hate doing that. It hurts so bad. Oh my goodness, yeah, that hurts so bad. I need to take a break now. Holy crap. Okay, use our other Milwaukee drill here so we don't strip and tear everything apart. I like about right there on my torque. Okay. Okay, do that, and then we'll just kind of snug them up the last little bit with a wrench. Alright, now we can go ahead and put our chain tensioner in. Again, we want to grease this, as I've showed you in the past. Okay, fill this cavity with grease right here. Okay, my grease is kind of runny right there. And then grease up the gears. Okay, like so. Don't need a crap ton, but in this instance, too much is better than not enough. In other instances, like your worm gear, too much is just as bad, if not worse than not enough, because it can clog up your worm gear. Okay, push that in, and another M4 screw. Coarse thread. The only fine thread screw on this is because of our aftermarket motor where our ground wire screws into our cylinder, as I explained to you earlier. Go ahead and snug this up. Okay. One thing I'm going to show you guys, a neat little trick with your cap off. Very, very light air into your vent here. And then use you a tool like a piece of wire or a pipe cleaner and make sure that your tank vent is working properly. This one actually seems kind of stiff, so I'm going to give it a car parts cleaner shot. Watch your eyes, neighbors. Okay, yeah, this one seems to not be closing properly. So yeah, we might have to replace this vent. This is the most common place to get an air leak, and also if your vent's not working right, there's not pressure built up into your tank, and so your saw will not oil fully. Okay, so just keep that into consideration. Alright, so now we can go ahead and put our oil pump on. Now these, let's see, I don't know on these, I can't recollect if the coarse threads work or not. I'm going to test it if I can clean my bolt head out. Dion didn't do a super good job of cleaning this hardware. Cannot recollect on these. I want to make sure they go. They do. Oh yeah, because this is our OEM engine pan still. That's why they're not fine threaded. I wish the manufacturers would use the right damn tapping on these things, you know. You pay that much money for a cylinder and you have to change out your screws or have it break inside the cylinder, and then if you can't get it tapped out, you're screwed. Actually, Mike Messina sells parts on Facebook a lot, and I bought a Highway 391 top end from him, and he sold it because one of his bolts broke where the intake boot screws to the motor. And oh, what am I doing here? And okay, so your oil pump has this elbow here, okay, and there's a spot that it connects on back there. Okay, push that on. Yeah, and the reason that happened, it took me a while when I bought that motor from him. He did make it very clear that there was a broken bolt inside of it. Damn it, I am struggling here with everything, it seems. His saw was kind of an asshole on the disassembly too. And that was before I knew that the issue was they're tapped wrong, but that bolt broke on them because they're tapped wrong. A lot of times the coarse thread screw will tap its own threads from fine to coarse, but a lot of times it will also break on you. Okay, so these have Loctite on them. Do that. Again, we will snug them up all the way by hand. Don't want to over tighten these, they will snap on you. That's the good thing about the Loctite. Alright, next our worm gear can go on, and on this one we want just a light coat of grease, okay, on the gears, just a light coat. Okay, you don't need a lot, you're just literally just enough to fill the threads. I wonder if that's Neighbor Hayes texting us, or if it's 10 a.m. it might be Walgreens. Walgreens on mine are rotten because apparently it's a controlled substance. They won't fill it until I run out. So if you get a 30-day supply, they won't fill it until day 31. I'm like, well, so that means a person, if they have a job and they work full-time, that is not Neighbor Hayes, then they have to miss, like I take it 3 times a day, they would have to miss their morning and afternoon dose. And I think that's silly. Okay, we got that. Now, these bumper strips, a lot of times they are worn out. He had some that were worn out, and these are important, especially on these plastic chassis, because they protect your chain from rubbing against your chassis. This oil channel, if this gets rubbed with your chain, then your oil will pass up and out of the oil hole instead of go into the oil hole on your bar. So this is a very important part. I have donated a couple of lightly used ones to him because most of his are worn out, and I thought I put the whole pile right here, but apparently I didn't. Looking for those. I don't know what the hell I've done with them. I gotta blow my nose again. This freaking weather just kills me. Okay, bear with me, neighbors. I gotta find those strips. Okay, here we are. I found them. They were on our clutch cover. Okay, so, see how that's all scratched up? That's from your chain, and this one is worn pretty low. This one's not too bad, but again, that's an important part to replace. So I have some used ones that are just very lightly used here that I'm putting on for him. This one is really deep. I don't know how well we can see with the camera, but this gouge right here is really deep, and so that means they're not going to do their job anymore. So just trying to find the best couple of used ones I can here. This is one for the saw. And just press that in nice and tight. So now I'm going to set the rest aside. Back up here where they were. And let's see what we would like to do next, neighbors. I'm really waiting on Neighbor Hayes to call so I can get some answers on some of these things. I don't like putting the spike on this early, but I'm trying to do all the stuff I can do automatically until I talk to him about his decision on like his AV mounts, but most importantly his top handle, because the top handle is the most important thing I need to know about from him. I don't want to end up having to give away that top handle. If he says, no, I didn't give you authorization to change that, I would have fixed my old one. And I don't want to have to take that back off, because you have to take a whole bunch of stuff off the saw. Carburetor, intake boot has to come out of the handle, gas line, coil wires and its grommet, and has to come off here as well. It's just a nightmare. So we don't want to have to do that. Well, yeah, see, that's stripped out. That happens a lot on these, but that's why we use Loctite. Okay, so I'm going to back that back out, and we're going to use extra Loctite. I don't typically helicoil these unless they're really bad, because the Loctite will work. Just got to use extra. Okay, so bunches of Loctite there. Okay, wipe that excess off. So if I tell you guys don't smoke while I'm smoking, does that make me a hypocrite? No, I know it's bad for me. If I was doing it behind y'all's backs and telling you not to smoke, then I'm a hypocrite. Somebody said I say be kind, but I go around smearing everybody or something. And it's because I was telling about a couple of neighbors that did me dirty, not picking up their saws and stuff, withholding my paycheck from me for months on end. Most shops, if you don't pick up your chit in 30 days, they keep it. And I said, that's not being a hypocrite. He said, I'm a walking hypocrite or something like that. And I had to explain to him, no, I'm not a hypocrite. I just speak facts. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put our gas cap in. There's a little slot right here that clips into. Okay, to get those out of the way, we'll go ahead and do the same thing with our oil cap. Okay. Flippy caps, I don't like them. Okay, there's that. Let's see what else we can do while we wait on Neighbor Hayes. We can rebuild our clutch. Okay, we got new springs for our clutch here. Again, it's just surface rust, Hayes, no fret. Okay, so we will take our needle nose pliers. Oh, excuse me. And get our springs out there. It's going to be a lot easier if you do them one at a time, opposed to take them all out at the same time. And then we just pull on that if we can. This is stuff I struggle with because of my weakness. Okay, put that spring in. Next we'll pop this one out. Hook that on. Same thing. Pull it over. This is is really hard for me. Sometimes I have to end up putting a screwdriver in between the coils to help stretch it. Okay, and then take our final one here. And this is the hardest one. There we go. As I said that, okay, now our clutch is a lot tighter, much better. Okay, get those out of the way. We can put those in our scrap metal later. Okay, so we will go ahead and put our rotor washer on. This says top. That means it's facing you, okay? Something doesn't feel right there. Okay, then reverse threaded clutch. And I put that dust cover on, and now I've got to go backwards, I realize. Okay, so the reason why is I don't have my chain brake band on. Okay, Loctite still tacky, so it's still good. Make sure I reset my drill so I don't over torque something. Get this dust cover out of the way. And just hook your chain brake band on there. It's disengaged. Okay. And that just goes in that groove down there. Let's put that cover back on and that bumper strip back on, and then we'll tighten our clutch. A lot of the reason I smoke now, you guys, is because it's not a good excuse, but it's a coping mechanism for my pain. My pain really makes my life difficult. Okay, now we need a 3/4 socket for our clutch. And then we will just go ahead and tighten our clutch. I should have put my rope in. Get a piece of rope with a knot. Do I not have one with a knot already in it? Apparently I do not have a rope with a knot. Okay, you don't want it tied at the end because then your phrase can get caught. Just tie you a knot in the middle of your rope. Put that down in your spark plug port. Look, just doing that took a bunch of our surface rust off of our springs. There we are, there's that. Okay. Now we can go ahead and put our coil on. Okay, so we have this wire goes here, and this one goes down here, and then they both go connected to the motor. Okay, let's see here. Sometimes these have a smaller hole on one end, sometimes they don't. Yeah, I gotta blow my nose again already. This is crazy. I'm going to have to turn the heater back on, I think, neighbors. It's cold in here. It's going to warm up fast, but I hate doing this. It hurts my shoulder so bad and my neck. Very difficult on me.
So, for those of you that have made it this far and say you like that I show the struggles and the reality of how frustrating small engine work can get, here I saved you about 9 minutes of your life and probably 30 fucks, maybe 10 shits, maybe 15 goddammits, and a whole lot more frustration. I was struggling to get the grommet and these wires in place where they need to go, and it was very frustrating, and we did a lot of cursing, and we almost decided to smash our neighbor's saw onto the floor. Just kidding, neighbors, I would never do that.
Okay, now our lock nut, our washer, our damn nut doesn't want to go on. It's trying to thread crooked. There we are. Get our 13 mil here for that. Okay. There's that. Okay. Yeah, see, our wires are catching, damn it. I do believe they are incorrectly routed here. And I'm going to have to go backwards some more. I'm going to have to do it the other way. Just starting to get frustrated, guys, but this is the reality of working on shit. It can get very frustrating. Most guys delete their frustrations out of their videos if they're working on something and get frustrated. Not me. I don't delete it.
Okay, so here again, just going to save you by telling you I was very frustrated. Had to go back and fix those wires once more.
I've done a lot of these saws and know them very well, but for some reason there's certain little things that I just can't quite always remember. Okay, there's that. And let's get these back on. Damn it, come on. See, the guy just tries to wake up even though he's only had 2 hours of sleep and tries so hard to have a positive day, but neighbor Jesus just likes to authorize the devil to torture me and abuse me and beat the shit out of me all day, every day. And now this wire won't fit. What a nightmare right now. What a nightmare this is becoming. Okay. Go ahead and get our 20 thou air gap tool here. You can use a business card. Turn it to our magnets, our north and south pole. Okay. Okay, there we are. Make sure nothing's catching or rubbing our wires. We have our clearance. Good. Just want to get this grommet in its groove a little better. Okay, now we can go ahead and put our shroud on. Okay. Intake boot there. Just to clip forward like so. That sits down behind both of those. Okay. And then this one just aligns with everything else there. And our final 2 M4 screws here. And then I'll have to check and see if that's neighbor Hayes. Oh goodness, turned the whole saw there. My torque is set right. I shouldn't have turned the saw like that. Okay, good and snug tight on these. Okay, there we are. Our spark plug wire goes in there. But we want to leave it unhooked until we get our top handle on. Let's see if that's neighbor Hayes texting us. It is. Let's see, go ahead if it needs it. Okay, so I don't know what all that's going to be talking about, but bear with me. Hey neighbor, I'm shooting your video. I'm not going to edit this shit out as I work on your saw and record your YouTube video for you. I'm going to ask you, is that for the AV annullers and the handle? Do you want to purchase that handle for $10? And on the AV annullers, do you want aftermarkets or OEMs? I've donated one used OEM one to you, and I was about to put the aftermarket one on that I have, and I have ordered more aftermarkets. So I'm assuming you would want aftermarkets. In my opinion, they're just as good. And then the handle, the handle, do you want to buy my handle for $10? I would recommend it. Okay, and we'll see what he says back there, neighbors. You like my channel? We were all on real here. Okay, the other thing on the Meteor and Highway top ends, a lot of times this bolt will not fit all the way. Okay, and so a lot of times what I have to do is I have to grind down about half of this here. Okay, I have to grind half of that depth on this side of the bolt and slant it up like so. But fortunately on this top end it is fitting. Okay, so this is one other step we can get out of the way real quick. It's easier to put the muffler on before the top handle on this particular model. Okay. And then you've got your muffler gasket here. Let me just wire brush that real quick. Yes, on handle. Okay, you got it, neighbor Hayes. Can't text you back, buddy, because I'm working on your saw. Okay, now we can go ahead, and I have cleaned up this. Oh, Chet, his muffler's got a hole in it. That's a no pinche bueno. Yeah, wow. I can probably spot weld that. Yeah, I'm going to spot weld that real quick. Okay, got our muffler all sealed up. It's not quite perfect. Got a tiny pinhole, but it does rest on the gasket. And it's nice and level, so that our gasket sits evenly against our muffler. And it seems we're having some issues with our bolts wanting to go where they're supposed to go here. Oh, we got a little nubby there I got to get out. Can't see, damn. Ow. See, that's why I don't like putting the spike on until the very end. Okay, and then we've got our plate here. Okay. Our tree washers. 1, 2, maybe not. 2, and tree. And then our tree 8mm nuts. And I've got an extra just in case any of these strip out. I should have soaked these damn bolts in mineral spirits or something. But I didn't. I forgot it. Our washers want to keep coming off too. Pain in my arse. Then I'll have to wash my hands because they're all filthy now. Okay, where is my 8mm? Are you guys sitting on it? I had to take Dion to work, and Dion's behind on money he owes me. And I've expressed to him, I trusted him to keep the tab of what he owes me. And we are not in agreements as to the amount owed. I feel it is far, far less than what he actually owes me. But also, he was supposed to pay me when he came back. And the story continuously changes. And I tried to politely express to him how I feel about it. When somebody doesn't keep their word, it makes me less willing to advance money to them because they have not kept their word. And so, also, I told him $3 one way for work or $5 round trip, and I think he's taking that as a round trip is dropping him off and picking him up. But what I mean by one way is if I have to go to town, he only has to pay one way of his trip, okay? But I have to drop him off and pick him up, and that is a round trip each time. So I told him $5 per round trip, or $3 one way. And so I know he's not going to be happy when I explain to him what that is. And he's supposed to get paid by his tenants on the 15th. So my uncle had told me it'd be wise to tell him he has to pay me the money he owes me before he comes back from Atlanta. And so he gave me about 60% of it and said he was going to give me the rest in cash when he got here. And then when he got here, it changed to now he has to wait until he gets paid by his tenants to pay me the rest. And now he seems to think that he's going to get the money by his tenants but doesn't have to pay me until he gets a paycheck from Taco Bell, because now that he's working, it's no longer room and board for work, because obviously he's not going to be doing as much around here, and so he has to pay rent. And actually that was his idea, because I told him, unless you're working full-time and aren't going to do nothing around here, I'm not too concerned about it as long as you're supplying your own food and stuff. But he uses our condiments, he uses our laundry soap, and I've never asked him to pay, but me, I would naturally offer to pay somebody for using their supplies. And so normally I wouldn't even care about that little stuff, but when your word is not kept to me, that stuff all of a sudden becomes something that I care about. Hayes did say he wants to go ahead and use my handle opposed to his. And so I'm just taking the couple of parts off of his that we need to complete my handle. Okay. So basically, it's now I'm not willing to give you free use of my laundry detergent and free use of my food condiments and whatnots, because you've not been fair with me. The agreement was literally for nothing more than room and board, and he told me he had plenty of money for food when he came here, but then when he got arrested, allegedly his bank took 6 months of the mortgage payment on his house instead of, or because apparently that's the agreement, if you miss a payment or you're late on a payment, they automatically take 6 months worth. And I've never heard of such a contract, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt, you know. But the track record is, and you guys, I'm not talking shit or gossiping, because I've already told him all this stuff to his face. And while one could say, well, you shouldn't be saying it on the internet, well, y'all know me. I call out shitty character, especially if you're a Christian, because we're supposed to. The only way the shitty world gets less shitty is when we hold each other accountable. But also, you guys are my venting system. Oh shit, I forgot I shouldn't have clipped that in yet, because I gotta do his little DECOM here. So I'm gonna mark that out, and we're gonna just start with a small pinhole. I want to make sure our handle is about where it needs to be. So we'll just get our intake boot kind of up out of the way. It's going to sit about right there. So that is about where our hole needs to be. Roughly right there. It's going to have to be bigger than that, but that's just our starting point. I don't want to pop that back off, but it looks like I'm going to have to. Just so I don't get plastic all over the motor or all over the saw. Yeah, come on. And this is why I didn't want to take this back off, because it's a nightmare. Especially for me, it's more of a nightmare because that's just my life, my shitty bad luck. Okay, so get that back off. We will go ahead and get a pilot hole here. Okay, I'm going to go grab a bigger drill bit. Okay, here we go, neighbors. And then we'll check this and see how much more we need to go. And I really should, because I had to weld this muffler and do this, probably should do myself right and charge some kind of labor, additional labor for this work. Okay, so that's going to be over just a bit. So I do believe if we just go slightly larger, we're about where we need to be. Okay. Don't want to go too big. I did explain to him that this leaves a hole. And the problem is, if I remember right, this doesn't sit on the DECOM valve low enough to where you can make like a grommet. So damn, his chain brake handle is broken too. Holy shit. It's amazing that I don't see this stuff. I would have noticed it if I cleaned the saw, but when I took his saw apart, I did not notice that handle broke. But I looked at my footage, and his rear handle top cover was in fact broke. Okay, see, it's going to be over. Is that? I got to put this on this thing again, unfortunately. This saw is taking me a lot of time today. It's already taken like 4 hours of my day. So it really hurts the bottom dollar. All this extra work. The welding took me a while. It's difficult to weld a hole that small when you have to have it perfectly flush. Technically, I probably should have taken the okay, let's see here. The muffler apart, but I'm trying to see. Yeah, see, the top cover is going to hit. It's unfortunate because I have to have this exactly where it's going to be to know what we need. And this also rattles around. So you can press that all the way. And I think we'll have to go a little bit more here. And we should be fine the other way. Just kind of sucks that I gotta keep taking this annuller in and out. Especially with the chain brake handle broken. I don't want to break it anymore. But Hayes is a really nice guy. I really like him, so I'm trying to do the extra stuff for him without charging him too much. Like, I'll probably put some plastic bonder on this handle for him. Damn, that should be coming right off, man. Why is it not? I'm kind of nervous. I don't want his damn handle to break any more than it already is. Chet, what are you caught on? Yeah, now it's caught on the DECOM. Damn. Okay, I don't like it. I've done this to another saw and I had to make the hole huge and I just don't like it. It's not rounded either, which bothers my OCD. Okay, let's see how that works. My body is weak, you guys. Okay. Yeah, see, that was, now I remember what the issue was. The handle is going to get in the way. That's why I had to make the hole so big, because it vibrates around. And it's going to end up pushing the DECOM in. I can't tell if it's in or out. Because this is going to be about right there. Yeah, see, that's the problem. I don't like making the hole this big. I just don't. Come on. Pop out. Big thing is we need to make sure it will pop out on its own. These are really difficult to do without putting the whole saw together and taking it back apart and everything multiple times. I need to know about where this is going to sit. Right there. Yeah, it's probably going to end up having to go bigger. Which I'm going to end up doing with a utility knife because I can't keep taking it apart and putting it back together. I'm not going to do that. But I don't want to make it huge, you know what I mean? I don't want to overdo it. You don't want to make the hole bigger than it has to be. I just feel like we need to take a little more off right here. hopefully that will do it. We're not going to know until we have the saw all the way together for sure or not. So hopefully we don't have to take any more off. If we do, we're going to probably do it with, like I said, with a utility knife. Come on. Come on, you fuck. This saw has just been one of them saws that silliest stuff is going wrong and aggravating me. Okay, forgot to take my impulse hose off this other one, which is also one of those things that's just a nightmare. Now that I've just put that back on, these impulse hoses don't come off easily. Let's make sure we didn't pierce that. If we did, we're out that money too. Okay, looks fine. Excellent. Okay. Press oil. Get some oil. Let's see if it'll be nice to us and go through the easier way. It's usually easier to push it through, but not always. You just kind of start feeding it through and then grab it as close to the handle as you can here and kind of start pulling and pushing at the same time, but you don't want to overdo it. There we go. That one was pretty decent. Okay. Now we got to feed our wires through the bottom here. I better check you guys' view and make sure you can still see. Where's my grommet? Way down. Okay. Let's get our grommet in here. Sometimes I can get this with my fingers, sometimes I can't. Just another one of those things, you just kind of got to work it in. There we are. I believe we got her. Oh, not quite. There we are. Okay. Put our fuel line up through there. Pull those wires all the way through. Next we'll go ahead and do our intake boot. See, now it's getting hot, you guys. It goes from cold to hot, cold to hot. Damn, his saw is just being a dick. Everything about this saw has been difficult. Even on the disassembly, it started off smooth, and then I just had a lot of troubles. You know, we probably will have to take more off of this DECOM. Because, yeah, this whole, and I hate it. It's so hard because everything moves. It's very difficult to get it to the small size you would like it to be. And then, as I said, you can't put any kind of grommet there, you know, because the handle doesn't sit low enough for that to be an option. Okay, put this AV buff in. Alright, let's see, what's next, you guys? Let's see here. We can go ahead and put our recoil on. I don't know if he said yeah, if it needs it on the rope. I mean, it doesn't really need a rope. I guess I'll just let him see it, and then I'll give him the same deal I offered him. Just $5. Normally I charge extra money if I have to do a recoil rope, because it takes like half an hour sometimes, and it's hard to rewind the spring and whatnot. Okay, we are almost there, neighbors. This has been a long build compared to what it normally takes me on this saw. Alright, we can go go ahead and put our spark plug in. We are reusing his spark plug that was in here to save him a few dollars. And then he will get his China spark plug that came with his motor as a spare. But he had the proper spark plug in here, so I don't want to use a Chino when I've got the NGK already available for the saw. Okay, there's that. Oh, you know what? I did myself dirty, neighbors. I didn't tighten my DECOM valve. Son of a bitch. Again, something I don't normally do, and I had to stop and take Dion to work. And so it made me totally forget about where I was on my project. Pretty happy with it. I think we got her tight enough. Okay, wow, I'm sweating my ass off. Gotta get this shirt off. How far are we in? 151, holy shit. Okay, on this, there's a little center core you gotta pop out first. It can be kind of difficult. You just gotta kind of pry at it. Yeah, his saw is just being an asshole. Wow, everything about this saw has been difficult. Just been one of those ones I should be done this saw by now. For sure. Okay, there's that. And then your rubber should come out fairly easily with a little bit of convincing, I guess. There we go. Okay. And then put your new AV mount in. The small side goes in the plastic. Okay. Make sure it is in all the way. And then the side with the deep cavity goes out. Okay, so then we put that inside. Okay. And then you can just push it down with a screwdriver or any tool you see fit. You just have to make sure it goes down all the way. Okay, we will tap it a little bit. I'm going to use the 8mm socket here. Works pretty good. Okay. Yeah, this thing is just being difficult. Okay, it bottomed out there. We felt it. Very good. And then this goes in here. So we'll get a little press oil. Okay. And then that will go up in there. Hopefully without too much difficulty. Very good. It went a little bit too far. But we can fix that. Very carefully push it back into it. That is loose. Once we get our handle on, that should hold tight. If not, yeah, because it's not supposed to be out that far. Let's go ahead and get our handle on to find out that part. Okay. And then these are the two I said wouldn't be that hard to replace in the future. So I do have aftermarkets ordered, and they are loose as well. So our wrap handle, pretty simple. Just kind of put it in its place. There, and then this goes in there. And then you'll have 7 T27 screws. Alright, and then we have these AV buffs, they're called. There's 3 total. One goes down there. One goes here. And then one more for here, which I'm going to have to pull out because he was missing one. Yeah, I do feel that that is supposed to be one set lower, like that. And let's see it. Make sure it gets tightened up. Okay, it does. Very good. We can put our chain catch on. And then we will see what our carburetor looks like. Okay. Okay, let's put our sprocket on actually. Again, we had to replace this needle cage bearing. Make sure I picked up the right one here. I did. We want to put some grease on the inside of this and the outside of it. Okay, so some grease on the inside. And then what I do is I just kind of spin it as I go onto the shaft here and then I take my excess, okay, put it on the outside there, okay, and then also just a little grease on the inside of your sprocket here, okay. Don't need a whole lot, but it's just to give it a good start to its life and keep it lubricated. You gotta line your notch up with your worm gear arm, as I've shown you in many videos. Okay, that lined up fairly well. Spin that a bit. Let's go ahead and get this excess grease right here out of our way. Retaining washer. And then oh yeah, I guess we're not putting his little redneck fix back on either, because we changed his handle. He had a nice little redneck fix to hold his switch in. I really liked it. He just took a screw and a piece of metal, and basically after it was in, he had this screwed onto his chassis like that to hold that thing in, and I thought that was cool. I always like when I see neat redneck fixes. Oh, hell. You know what, neighbors? The freaking clip's not in there, and this is going to be, yeah, this sucks. My clip for my on-off switch. These are not exactly easy to get on when the handle's on the saw. That kind of sucks that I didn't notice that. But I think we'll be okay. Rest the way down there. There we go. Excellent. There we go. There we go. You are good to go. Okay, put our recoil back on. And again, I'm not Loctiting these screws because I want him to see his rope in person and decide if he wants it. So when he comes to pick up his saw, we'll let him decide. And that's the other thing. His tank vent is questionable as well. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm trying to save him the $5 for an aftermarket tank vent if I can. Trying to save him money anywhere I can. Okay, I think our handle is pretty much okay with our DECOM. I don't love it, but we'll have to see how she operates. If it ends up tapping onto that DECOM and pushing it in, we'll know, because our saw is going to run like it has an air leak. Okay, what else do we have, neighbors? We have just basically our carburetor stuff left, and this video is long as hell, so I am basically going to open up the carburetor and see what it looks like. I have shown you guys how to rebuild these carburetors, and so if I have to rebuild it, I'm probably not going to have footage on that, because we are just over 2 hours deep into this video now for any editing. We're at 2 hours and 11 minutes before I take any edit or cut anything. And so that's a long video for an assembly. I really didn't think it would take me that long. I know this saw well, but I'm tired and I'm in excruciating pain, and I can't work fast when I hurt. Most times I don't even want to work at all when I hurt like this, but I got bills to pay. Uncle's still in the hospital. I don't have a choice. I have to work. And then they'll say I'm not disabled. Yeah, his diaphragm is pretty stiff. Plus it's dirty as hell. So we are going to have to rebuild his carburetor, it looks like. Yeah, she's stiff. Okay, let's see what our pump diaphragm looks like. I mean, it needs it as a service thing anyways. Yeah, this is a Teflon one, and these usually don't get bubbled out as much as this one is. So, yeah, we're going to rebuild his carb. There's not even a damn screen in there. I'll be damned. No screen, dude. No screen in your carb. There's supposed to be a screen right there. No screen. Well, okay. So, this is going to take me a lot longer, you guys. And since I've done a video specifically on this carburetor, I actually did it on a what was it, an 044, yeah. And Hayes, I'm gonna remove your restrictors again, buddy. I know you don't want them on there. So I'm not gonna, for sake of video length, you guys, this is gonna be a hard video to edit and also gonna be hard to get uploaded. So I'm not going to keep filming. I just want to see if his restrictors will come out easily. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Can't remember, is this a reverse thread one or not? Can't tell. Don't know where my actual Stihl one is. Yeah, this one's not working. It's going to be a nightmare. It's got to be an asshole. It's supposed to pull the plastic up as you thread and it hits the needle, but this one's not going to. Okay, I've got it screwed in, but we'll see if we can get it to come out any. The problem is with these, you don't want to strip them out because you have to put them back in. Yeah, she doesn't want to come out pretty easy. Sometimes I struggle with these ones because I end up stripping them out, but I might not have my tab turned right. I'm struggling to see. I'm tired, guys. I'm very tired. I'm so sorry. I'm tired and I hurt like hell. Cannot tell if my tab is lined up or not. Damn. Come on, you fuck. Yeah, my tab's not lined up, damn it. Yeah, that sucks. Okay. Method number 2. See if we can't get our entire, this whole gray thing sometimes will pop out pretty easily. But, of course, everything on this fucking saw is being nightmarish. Fucking everything. Okay, there's our tab. Boy, I cannot see. Come on, you fuck. Ah, there we go. That was what we wanted to do. Okay, so, that being said, I think that's going to be it for the saw, you guys. Like I said, you've seen me do one of these. I have showed you how to do the carburetors on these saws and everything. But this video is very long, so, Ted Neitzel, go down in the comments and tell me, of course I'm a trooper. I know Ted Neitzel will watch this shit to the end. Anybody else that does, comment that I'm a trooper. Let me know you made it all the way through the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and go ahead and leave a comment down below. Till next time, you guys, be kind to one another. Everyone's facing a battle. Just because I'm not always kind doesn't make me a walking hypocrite. We have to remind ourselves to be kind. Nobody is kind all the time. We just have to try our best. Okay? I love all you guys, even though I suck at it.